Welcome to the Lindsay Hadley Podcast Show, where weekly I interview some of the world's most inspiring people from business, philanthropy, and entertainment. I love collecting humans, and these are some of my favorites I found along the way. This podcast has been brought to us by Capita Financial Network.
Do you need help with the next steps of your financial plan? Think Capita. Capita is a financial network built around you. They have a team of financial advisors, CPAs, estate attorneys, Medicare providers, and Social Security experts to help you accomplish your financial goals. Call or schedule a complimentary consultation at 801-566-5058 or visit their website at capitafinancialnetwork.com. You can also check out their financial education podcast, The Financial Call, available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and YouTube.
Hi, welcome to the Lindsay Hadley Podcast Show. Today, I'm so pleased to have a fellow female filmmaker on my show, Roxanne Avent Taylor, who has been best known as the CEO of her Hidden Empire Film Group, which is basically been responsible for some of the incredible slate of films she's got behind her here in this video. She's been a part of some incredible work and pioneering some really innovative ways to tell stories that matter in culture right now. And Roxanne, maybe we could start off by just thanking you, for being on the show. You mentioned you don't really do this that often, so I feel very honored. But then secondly, I'd love to hear your story as a female filmmaker and like what got you into this industry. What was your your hero's journey? I mean, you've made a lot of success for yourself, and it doesn't come easy. So we'd love to hear a little bit about your background. What got you into filmmaking? What was your story to get you here, and share your story?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here, and congratulations on doing this podcast for your group of people. I think it's really important to keep these guys up to speed on what's going on in the entertainment space and other different markets and things that you guys are involved in. It's pretty special that you're willing to do that. So thank you for having me, and congrats to you guys.
Thank you for coming on.
I have an interesting background. I'll keep it short. I'll keep it towards the film. A lot of people coming from the inner city struggling. I have that same kind of story. One of the few that were blessed to be able to make it out. So I have an interesting story. Coming up, from a tough, traumatic childhood, never accepting the past for my future. I just persevered, worked really, really hard. School was always a passion for me. Film was something that I always was my escapism. I would go to school, I'd go to the movies and sit in the movie theaters and sneak to every single different showing that you could, living kind of vicariously through these different characters, wondering if they kind of go through the different struggles of everyday life that we do, just being so fascinated with those characters on the screen and their stories. And so, I eventually thought, oh, I want to be in computer science. Oh, I want to be an accountant. Oh, I want to do this. And so I did all of these different things just to learn that that's not what I want to do. And so I followed my passion. And when I was 20, I think I left Sacramento area, and I had my dad and my brother follow me in a U-Haul truck. Nowhere to go. Took 10 steps back to learn the film business and figure out what it is out here that they're doing exactly. Lived in a hotel for quite a while. And at that time, temp agencies were like massive. So I joined a temp agency called the All-Star Agency, and it was specifically catered to entertainment and film. And so quickly, I was able to get a receptionist job. That receptionist job was at the Walker, Texas Ranger show. And I was a PA/receptionist. And so, from there, I learned, pretty much everything. Applied for pretty much, every job that I could through this temp agency who sourced people for film and television. and got a receptionist slash PA job at the Walker Texas Ranger Show. So I maneuvered very quickly, moved up very quickly because I had all of the business side, leaving Sacramento, installing hardware and software for the Senate and the Assembly, and being executive assistants and all these different things at this time. It was very easy to learn how to answer a phone and pick up trash, because that's pretty much what PAs do, is anything you're told. And so
Yes.
they took a great liking to me. I was able to find out there was this thing called the UTA list. And it was the list that circled the industry of all the jobs that were available. They never advertised for these positions, and they still don't, quite frankly. You don't know of any jobs available in the industry. It's word of
Right.
mouth, and
Right.
that's the way it is, And
Right.
so I applied for every single job on this list, just to, whether I had the experience or not, just to go to the interviews and figure out, like, what do I need to know? What are they asking? Because unlike someone who's probably went to film school, tried their hand at this, had mentorships and different people, politicking for them, because this was their natural path from the very beginning, I had none of that. So I felt like I was behind and starting from scratch, which I was. And so I applied for all these positions, went to several interviews just so I can learn. On my 21st birthday, it was so incredible, because I was interviewing for the national executive in charge of theater operations, facilities management, and awards for the New York and LA office for the DGA. I had no idea what the DGA was. He hired me in the interview. And again, this was 20 something years ago. I don't want to age myself right now.
I'm with you, girl.
I was like, oh yeah, it's 20 or so years ago. And he was like, look, you don't have the film experience, but you have the business side. And, I'm going to pay you 60 grand a year, and you're going to make tons of overtime and tons of extra money. And so I said yes. Through that process, I can say now that I learned pretty much the foundation of everything that I know now, but going through it, it was very, very rough. All the stereotypical things that people say about the industry, about the sexism, the racism, the verbal abuse that you go
Right.
through
Right.
was all there.
Oh,
It was
so gross.
all of the things.
So gross. I'm sorry.
All of the things. And so, it was very hard for me to decide. I'm out in LA by myself. I have no support. I know no one. I'm very young. And eventually I just said, you know what? I quit. I'm not going to stay here. I'm not going to be treated like this. This is
This is
not
toxic.
It's just
Toxic.
so toxic. And so I left, and I went to do music from there. I was the label manager for an independent record label, and was very successful label. We did all of the things, distribution, marketing, promotions, all of the things for the artists on the label. And then my now husband, who played professional basketball overseas, says, hey, I want to retire and I want to make a movie. And I said, what? He's like, you're the only one I know in the business, so please help me. And I'm like, yeah, what? Like,
You're in the biz.
I'm in the biz of
Make
what?
it happen.
So, long story short, he wrote this script, super creative. We went around Hollywood trying to find money for the project. Everybody told us no, brought us back in the room to tell us no again. And so we ended up raising our own financing with the people around us, majority of the athletes that he, went to school with or played with or what have you. And so we got a group of people together to invest in us on this little movie that
Love it.
we had called 75. And that was like 20 years ago, 17 years ago. So we did not plan to have a production company. We did not plan to go into this business, by default. We just wanted to make a movie. We made the movie. We ran out of money. All of the things happened. We had no idea what we're doing whatsoever. No
The
film
blind leading the blind. That's always an
and
adventure,
leading the
isn't it?
blind. We're on film school on the set.
Yeah.
So we run out of money, probably a week. I think it was like a week left on the shoot. And a friend of mine, publicist, knew this man named Robert Smith with Vista Equity Partners. And she was like, "Hey, I have this guy. Maybe he can help you get some money. He'll be in town, in a couple months." And we're like, "No, we need it yesterday."
Yesterday. Yeah.
We're on set shooting, like running out of money.
Yeah.
Anyway, nevertheless, his plans changed. He was able to come down literally the next day. We met him, and I tell this funny story, but sometimes I don't like to tell it. As a Black man walking up on the set, we got all of our stuff on to meet him that day. All our suits and all of our stuff because we're on the
all
set.
fancy.
We were all fancy. And we walked right past him. And then Dion says to him, "Hey, did you see who came up in that Lamborghini?" And he was like, "No, I think he went that way." Right. So as we're walking, we're like, "Oh, shit. That's probably him." Yeah. Anyway, successful Black man who, now is, the richest African man in the world with the biggest minority hedge fund in the world. Took a chance on us.
I love this story.
Us, and is now a personal friend. Dion was in his wedding as his best man.
Wow.
And really taught us how to figure out the 360, pushed us. From the 75 movie, we leveraged another film and another film and another film. And that became our film school. From film set to film set to film set,
right?
Learning how to do the scripts better, learning how Dion's a director and a writer, and then I'm the producer. So just mastering your craft, really, you know? And so it was the best journey ever when I look back, because even in school, it doesn't teach you what and how to do these.
No.
The cutthroat political business that it represents. It's
right.
really, really, really hard. And, you can do all the comps in the world, and you can compare and contrast all the things, and you can get the actors that you think will do the pre-sales or the this or the that, and none of it's guaranteed. None of it. So one, you have to take a chance on yourself and hope that your ideas and, your creativity and what you put on that screen is going to work. And two, there are no days off. Like, there are no days off in this business. And, it was really, really hard. And Robert supported us the whole entire time. And eventually we were able to create the 360. And for me, that means paying our investor back, getting all the money back for the film. P&A is paid, right? And people get money in their pockets above the line.
Yay!
So about 6 years in, we were able to complete that process. And after that, we've never lost since. Every film has been successful. We are 14 films in. We own every single one of them, because being forced out and no one helping us, we were able to own our own IP. And so I can talk about that a little bit, but we've created a library now. I don't need to go to Robert. We haven't gone to Robert because of the success of our films have been extremely, we've just won, and we have a really tight ship, a really tight model that we use, and we don't go out of that. And so, I always ramble. You ask me my experience, but that's
No.
pretty much my experience. I had no experience, and I just
You
out.
built it along the way. Those are the best journeys. Roxanne, I love that story. First of all, the resourcefulness, the grit, the kind of audacity that you and Dion had. So a couple of questions come to mind. Number one, so you've worked on 14, 17 different films, a slate of films throughout your career. And you've done a film with Hilary Swank. You've done one with, let's see, you had Naomi Harris.
Yes.
Like, well, yeah, the projects that you've done, the first one that was 75, I'm just sitting here thinking you took friends and family money that were, non-industry professionals. Did you get a return on their money? I'm just sitting here, my breath is going, oh my gosh, I hope that worked out. Because
No,
these are hard to do.
no.
Okay.
First four film, no. But
Yes.
what I did later is because we lead with integrity. We're very
Yes.
honest
Yes.
people. There is no ill will, and for the most part, I think most people understand the risk that they're taking,
Yeah.
and I think they understand the risk that they're taking, and
That's good.
they
And
believe.
they know you did they
Yeah,
know you did your damnedest and that
right,
you
but
did everything you could.
there's also people who are like, I need my money back, and what's going on, and did you take my money? There's always this what if, and so with most of those films in the early days, as we became successful, we paid them their money back anyway and took their
Really?
from the film. Yes.
You literally paid back investors that you did no money from future equity of success you had.
Yes. And
Girl,
just bought them out because the relationship
amazing.
meant more, you know what I mean? And sometimes the unknown, even though you explain and all of these things, can create a wedge. And so
Yes.
it was important for us to make sure that there was no, weird
Wow.
energy in between. But
Wow.
as we learn, like we set up a cam account for every single movie now. So there's no money that goes to us. It goes to an account that then fields to the necessary
Yes.
people. There's things that you put in
Yes.
place to
Yes.
guarantee
Systems.
their, comfortability, but there still is no guarantee. But no, we didn't. But it's again, it's important for us to make sure
Wow.
that we sustain those important relationships, to us.
You remind me of me in that, like, sometimes, because I'm so relationally driven, that the long-term accounting, like, there's so many situations I've made where I'm like, this makes no economic sense. It's just not actually my fault, but it is my responsibility and it is my relationship and my name and my integrity. And so I'm going to do the right thing. There's been so many situations in my career where I was like, I was the leader that ate last. But I'm seeing now the fruit of that. Like, people trust me and they will take my call and they know that if it doesn't go right, I will do everything to correct course and make it right even later. And the grace that people have given me who were there in the beginning when I failed or made a mistake or let them down or under delivered in some capacity, they've stayed with me and they've come back and go, that was the best decision I ever made, is sticking with you, because then look at all this value you created, or you brought this other relationship, this revenue. I mean, we're whole, and
Yes.
I've really cared about that. And not every people are just like, yeah, I've noticed, sadly, most people, their character and the way they view the world is transactional and immediate. Well, hey, I didn't put a gun to your head. You made an investment. You're bad. Yeah, Crimea River, I lost a lot of money, move on. And like, people are so ruthless about how their decisions as leaders impact other people. They don't care. And so to have you have a heart like that, this is something that, and I know this isn't always the case, and I'm saying something general, but I do believe people from the BIPOC community and women leaders are way more sensitive about this stuff. They're way more aware because they're like, I know what it's like to be the leftover thought of the person that got the least, the crumbs from the table. So I'm not going to do that to anyone else. And so I really admire that. So thank you for being that way, and having that kind of character. So looking at all your projects, and you talked about this lean situation. We started this call. I shared with you that I have a film fund called the Harbor Fund, and I'm new to the film industry, but I'm making social impact films. We're using philanthropic dollars to do it. A lot of your stories in your movies, they have incredibly important untold stories,
Yes.
especially from the Black community. If you could maybe talk a little bit about what do you think the social impact is of the narratives you've been pushing, the stories you've been sharing and telling, and how does that impact the worldview of the Black community, Black filmmakers, Black protagonists, whatever? And now we're seeing like this wave of the major studios finally getting that, but you were doing that before anybody else was. Like you're the OG. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that, like how you feel that's impacted the world and what your feeling is of the purpose behind some of your films.
Yeah, I mean, I think, social impact is always kind of like the underlying values and messaging that we want to, portray in the films. We want them to be commercial. Um, you know, Multicultural is important. I mean, the world encompasses everybody. Like, my mother's white, my father's Black. So my whole entire life, I have had to struggle with so many different things, which is not even appropriate for this call. But they do exist. They haven't really changed much. They just shifted. But the world is, we're all the same people. You know what I mean? We all bleed the same blood. We all have all of these things. And, you just do the little bit that you can. We make films for an audience. We make films that are relevant in today's society of what's going on, not just in our community, but everywhere. For example, with Traffic, that was about sex trafficking. Now, we made that film probably 3 years prior to like this whole pandemic of people wanting to notice that it exists when it was very clear that it exists. It was labeled as prostitution and all these
Yes.
different things, but it was clear as day, these women were being trafficked outside the people raising their hand, on the higher level, um, for, different leadership, people in the community in different places where they would, be paid a large sum of money to do these things. But the typical person on the street from where their background, they ended up in these difficult situations. And Paula Patton and Omar Epps was in that film. And we just wanted to show everyone that this is going on right next door to you, and our daughter had a situation in the mall where a young girl who worked for one of these pimps approached her and tried to befriend her, right? To come with her and do all of these things. And it was a whole setup for,
Like a racket.
to
Yeah.
take her.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, you made a movie about that and then your own baby was in that situation.
my
Did that happen after you made the movie or before?
That's what inspired us to
Wow.
really like step up and make the movie. And everybody was on board. We had a lot of organizations ready to support us. But when the film was ready to come out, everybody stepped away and was very nervous. You know what I mean? And listen, everybody's not going to agree with your stories. Everybody's not going to agree with your storytelling. But again, everything we do out of our hearts and our vision and what we think people need to see and people need to hear. We're all very flawed characters. And so all of our films represent that. We want to make sure that you can identify with somebody in that film, the stories they go through, what they look like, whatever the case may be, because, we're always overlooked as women, as Black and brown people. And, it's if you do not raise your hand for someone when you're in a leadership position to bring the ladder down, who else is? And so, between Fatale with Hilary Swank and Michael Ealy, it was about a woman separating their marriage and them having to come together, you know what I mean, to fight for
Yeah.
their family. And sex trafficking with Traffic and Meet the Blacks, as funny and crazy and stereotypical as it is, that is about family. It's the everyday values that we kind of have went away from.
Yeah.
and forget what encompasses who we are as people and how to remain happy. And those are the things that we just try to make sure that shows up in our film. You know, the trust, the integrity, the love is so important. Believing in yourself, supporting people no matter what they look like, who they are, where they come from. You never know who you'll be faced with along the way that you treat it. It's like the normal rules
Yeah,
of law and
it is.
life, right? Like,
Yes.
guarantee you treat that person bad, you will see them again somewhere in a different facet. And so again, we our green light process is looking at each other and saying, do you like this? Yep, I like it. Does it speak to an audience that has any value of importance? And then we go make it. And all of our fans show up and show out for us every single film, but
Rad.
because of our honesty, you know what I mean? Because of um we're bold even when you're scared. Like you have to tell these stories, and you can't worry about what the rest of the world is going to think about you, because the only thing that matters is your internal family and your internal love. And that's what we're supposed to be living for. And then these dope stories that we make, if they're showed by the world, then that's just, another layer of a legacy that you try to build.
I love that. Roxanne, one of my favorite parts about your story you just shared was the fact that Robert actually took a chance on you guys. Like, what do you think it was? I mean, because he was not as huge as he is then, but he was big. He was a big deal, and he had a lot of
Yeah.
money, a lot of success, and his influence and his affinity towards you, like, I'm sure brought like a halo effect. People trust equity because he was such a demonstratively successful person. Even then, he's become, like you said, like a world juggernaut, a
Insane.
titan.
Yeah.
Yes.
Insane.
So insane. I mean, so tell me a little bit about what do you think it was? Why do you think why you guys? Why did he, I mean, it sounds like you guys built a really pure relationship with it being a best man at his wedding. But when you look back, like, and you were just kind of there, you're newbies, you're new kids on the block. Like, what was it that he said yes to you guys, do you think?
um I don't know. I mean, our passion, and who we are, and what we're trying to get to. But he asked us this random question. Um, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like the typical cookie cutter, like. And he asked one of the main actors in the movie this question, because we were partnering. Dion, this was his first time directing a film, and he asked both of them, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And the one said, oh, I'm just going to keep doing, what I'm doing. And Dion's response, I think, was just more authentic and real about, you know, what he wants to do to change the world and tell, amazing stories, and empower and put Black and brown people in front of the camera, behind the camera,
Love it.
educate. And I think that was probably a big part of it.
Yeah.
Robert's really, I mean, as we've learned, he's really pours his philanthropic work into the Black and brown communities and invest in them
Yes.
specifically, because it's very few. And so he's always about education and empowerment, and that probably had a lot to do with it. Our passion. And I don't know. We
It's
finished the
incredible.
movie, and then we didn't hear from him for like a year.
He did, how many movies did he do with you guys?
Uh, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6.
Wow. So he really got behind you there early.
Yeah, he invested. He did the equity financing for those individual films. We still had to do our P&A. We had to find distribution. We had to market the movie. But
Yeah.
yes, he really, really showed up for us. It's so
Beautiful.
hard to raise money, and
Yeah.
it's even harder to pay it back.
Ugh, I love the story of you guys being able to get to where you're now like, we don't lose money anymore.
We don't lose
Um,
money.
uh,
We won't lose money.
yeah, exactly. It's
I
like you
mean,
make decisions that guarantee it, right? You're like, we're
yeah,
just not going to
you
set
have
ourselves
to,
at
and you
risk.
have to learn from your mistakes. Like, we just use the normal tools of life, and I
Yes.
think
Yes.
that was my biggest thing personally for myself, whether it was Robert or anyone else, was to get to a point where I can pay my investors back.
Yeah.
And not only pay them back every penny that they put in plus their premium, but to also put money in their pocket. That's what they're investing in you for. No, you can't
Yeah.
guarantee it all, but that was my one of the biggest accomplishments in my career, is to be able to pay these investors back.
So beautiful.
Like,
I'm so pumped for you, Roxanne. That's such a good feeling. And
it's
you're
like, oh my God. Because, like you said earlier, like, they put all their trust, and they're rooting for you. And yes, it is, an investment. They probably do 20, 30, a little bit here and a little bit there, hoping that one will turn the corner. And, I've been happy to report, from 8x up to like 26x
I
per
love it.
film that we've been able to return. And so, because of that, I know that I can go to them if I need to
Yes.
for any additional support because of
Right.
that. And it's interesting because I'm also raising a fund for the first time ever in our whole
Yay.
career. We're out raising a fund. And I'm like, okay, we got all of our, documents together. And I said, okay, who's the list of our partners that we showed up for, that we returned our money, because we should start there.
Yeah.
Because
The ones who already know you, you're a known entity, you're a known winner.
they took
Yeah.
a chance on us, so we should go to them first to give them the opportunity, you know what I mean, to be a part of this bigger, massive slate, 25 films in 5 years we're going to do. And it's a big task to take on, but I think, for the exit, it's life changing. To
Unbelievable.
be able to
Yes.
create a
Yes.
library where you own, 60 plus titles that you can license forever as IP. I mean, IP is the key to success in our business.
Yes.
A lot of these guys, don't get me wrong, it's great, but they're still working well into their,
Right.
ages, because they're just work for hire. And that's fine if that's what you choose to do, but it's kind of sad because, these IPs have made millions and billions of dollars,
Mm-hmm.
and they just
Mm-hmm.
get a check one
Yeah.
time. One time.
Totally, girl.
You know what I
I
mean? Like,
love that you're doing this. I love that you're doing this. I'm curious. So one of my favorite things about Robert Smith's philanthropy is when he did that crazy, reckless $34 million that paid off all of the students at Morehouse
yeah,
College's
everybody talks
tuitions.
about that story.
That went so viral. What I loved about what he did is there's something about a saturation. Like there's something about he could have given a little bit of money to a lot of students all over the country, Black students in all the different schools, but he just went in and changed massive demonstratively this smaller cohort of people. And I'm wondering, because do you think part of your investment strategy, like maybe if Robert or others get involved, or anybody listening might want to get involved, is it because you have created, like you said, such an audience, such a niche, the foreign sales, the price points, you're keeping, tell us a little bit about your thesis in this portfolio so we can understand. Because in film, for those of you listening who've never learned about film, and Roxanne, you can educate me because I'm a new kid on the block in film. As executive producer, I'm leveraging philanthropic dollars and people that are not getting investments or returns, but they're gifting, kind of like, if you bought a Mona Lisa and donated to the Louvre. I believe storytelling is the most powerful thing we do. And that the idea that in the past, people have been leveraging philanthropic dollars for documentaries, and yet these movies, like the movie Taken, did more than all the documentaries combined for anti-trafficking, right? And Blood
Yeah.
Diamond did more than all the docs for ethical supply chain.
Wow.
So I believe that features, narrative films that have actors that are an archetypal story and a hero's journey, like what you were telling in your film, they're going to be seen by more people, more commercially relevant, more cut through in zeitgeist and culture. They're just going to have higher impact. So why would we not leverage philanthropic dollars waste? So that's what we're doing at Harbor Fund. But my question for you is like, because you're actually looking to see returns, this is a traditional investment strategy. So when I first learned that the film industry on average is like 12% of films make money, I was mortified. I'm like, I don't want anyone I love to have their money go to money movie heaven. So when I hear you, you're like, I paid everyone back. My investors get, we don't lose money. Like you are a gem. You are like a diamond in the rough. So what is it about your strategy? Maybe you can explain the thesis, why you're different, why these returns are more solid in your world.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, everything we do is under $5 or $10 million. We raise the financing, we make the movie, and then we go find a distribution partner, like a Sony or a Paramount or a Lionsgate or a Warner Brothers, and they take the film for 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, whatever you negotiate. In the beginning, it was 25 years because I had no idea what I was doing, and you give them a percentage to license it. And, you can negotiate an MG, which is a minimum guarantee that they will give you, that they base off, your budget of the film, who's in it, your pre-sales, if you have any, if you're going that route. But, if you can, usually I'm able to capture an MG that pays for exactly what I've made the movie for. So off the top, my investors getting their money back.
Yeah.
And then everything else is profit. So, when I go out to the market, everything we've done has been a theatrical release. We've never done a streaming film. The theatrical component is very important because it dictates all the rest of the windows that follow the theatrical business. Because most of these different, SVOD, PVOD, network TV, free TV, all of these different lanes base their original numbers, investments, and licensing fees on the success of the theatrical business because they all follow each other.
That makes sense. Yeah.
And, if you can manage to do that, if you make a film for $5 million and you do, 1,500 screens minimum, which is considered a wide release, and you're able to raise the P&A to market those 1,500 screens and know exactly who your audience is. I mean, I'm kind of saying this quickly in a
Yeah. No, it's rough numbers, but 1,500 screens.
If you go out on 1,500 screens, you average, say, $5,000 a screen. Say your P&A is $7.5 million. So you're all in for, $13 million. So you got to make $13 million to be completely whole. So if you can come out from that box office with $13 million minus 50%, because remember, theaters take
The theaters take half.
50%, you won. You won. And then you go to, VOD.
Anything above that is now profit and returns.
It's all profit.
Yeah.
So what we've been able to do is successfully recoup in the theater. And that's how we've been able to be successful. Without going, because we'd be on this call forever, but we have been successfully kept our price points very tight. We don't go over, we don't reshoot, we get everything when we're there. We have created, some deep rooted relationships with A-list crew because we managed to keep them working movie after movie, and they show up for us for, great prices. We are very collaborative. We work with the partnership. There's pieces to this puzzle, and without one piece, you're nothing, right? So we don't treat people as if they're beneath us on the crew. We're all, the grip, the electric, the wardrobe, it's all very collaborative. We want people to come to work, have a great time.
Love what they're doing.
We're making movies, like, for God.
Feel loved. Feel
You know
loved,
what I
girl. You
mean?
leading with love.
Like,
Yeah.
but I, as we've grown, we're not just doing features anymore. We're doing docs. I have a whole doc department, right?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
We have a whole sports division, which I'm doing the Floyd Mayweather docuseries. First time he's ever spoken in his whole career.
Wow.
I'm doing the LA doc with Russell Westbrook, DeMar DeRozan, James Harden, and Paul George, right? I'm doing Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Draymond doc. So those are like the three docs I'm leading with to launch our sports brand, right? And then we
Cool.
have the feature side. And then we have the nonprofit side, which is our Be Woke Vote, now Be the Vote campaign. And 4 years ago, we registered over 1.4 million people to vote.
Incredible.
We also have a massive Black History in 2 minutes short content that we've won like 8 Webbies for. So we're just trying to check every box. Being an entrepreneur is, again, it's just really hard, and you're constantly having to reinvent yourself, and you're constantly have to really figure out what's the important stories to tell without, combating the system, without disrespecting anybody's culture or, you know what I mean, way of living and that kind of thing. And I think if I can, again, just, it's all about leaving a legacy, but you want to make money. Everyone wants to make money by doing this,
Yes. Yes.
But
it's the dream, right? Being an artist and expressing
we're
yourself
literally
creatively.
living the American dream. Like, I feel
Yeah.
like I'm living the American dream. When you look back, you dream big and you always say, oh, I want to do this and I'm going to be that and I'm going to do this. And then somewhere along the way, life happens. Outside influence comes in, and you sometimes forget or get distracted on what your dream and your purpose is. And some way, somehow, God has carried us our whole entire way to keep us focused on what we're here to do. And so it's very hard. I'm not saying I don't go through stuff, because, girl, I do. I got 3 kids. I got a business. You know what I mean? I'm trying to figure it out. But if you lead the way I've been saying the whole entire time, integrity, faith, you know what I mean, and trust and honesty, it all just comes. It all
Yeah.
just comes.
I
And,
love that.
I just hope that people will see our vision, support our work and our efforts. We're always looking for content. We're always, shining a light on other people to shine. And, we want to do our little part of changing the world.
I love it, Roxanne. What a beautiful story. You are such a bright light. It's just like you emanate in the things that you believe and what you stand for, and very high capacity and high character person. It's really fun to meet you. Yeah, oh my gosh, my pleasure. I'm so glad to meet you. Tell me a little bit. Okay, so of all the projects you mentioned, just a slate of things. You're in different verticals. You're doing shorts. You're doing, you're doing impact stuff. You're doing docs and then features. This is hard to say, and you won't hurt anybody's feelings. But like, what are you most excited about? I mean, you've got the fund, you have the slate, but is there a project that you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how excited I am to work on this? Because you do have a lot of great things going. Is there kind of a couple favorites that you want to highlight?
Yeah, they're all important to me for different reasons. Floyd is really important for me because I do feel like the world doesn't really know who he is, really. I feel like what they know about him is all about the money and how he is as a character, on in the ring, and his facade. So it's really important for me to tell his story about who he is, where he came from, and I think it'll shine a light on why he is the way he is. I'm excited about the story of John Lewis, which was when they did the freedom rides before he became John Lewis and went to desegregate the South without, any violence although they were attacked and beaten and some killed.
Yes.
I'm doing that with the John Lewis family, which I'm excited about, and I'm excited to
Cool.
tell that story. I have a couple films, like we're rebooting Blackula with Amazon,
How fun.
and I'm happy to be a part of that because it was the first Black exploitation film of all time. It was the first time that any film with Black and brown people in front of the camera and behind the camera had a success ever in filmmaking
Wow, I
history.
didn't know that history.
So to be able to
Wow.
be chosen to come and retell that story
Wow.
is impactful. You know what I mean? For me,
It's an
and just,
honor.
yeah,
Yeah.
changing for me. We have a football heist movie, which is an action heist where it's second string football players robbing banks on the road when they stop off a different. So I'm excited about that because that's going to be my first studio film over $60 million. And
Woo, let's go.
that's
What's that one called again? That one? What's
called
that one
Free
called?
Agents. It's
Free
called Free
Agents.
Agents. And I've had that for like 20 years because I've never been able to go make it. And so they optioned it from us last year. And there's always been this thing on my back, like, oh, can she really make movies for $50-60 million? Because she never has.
You can.
So I'm thinking, I'm like, okay, well, first of all, if I can do it for 5 and 10, I definitely can do it for
Oh, that
60.
just means you
Like,
got
I have more
nicer. You just
time
have
to
more buffer. Yeah.
more time with the actors, more time. Like, yeah, I can't. But anyway, so I'll
Yes.
feel like I'll check that box to be able to
Amazing.
say, but I think the biggest thing for me in my life is once I do raise this fund and once I do get all of these things to a point where we can really partner and with go to the next level with this company, I feel like in 3 to 5 years we can be worth $1 billion. I want to do nothing but philanthropic work. That's my passion. To me, this is just the path to set me up to do that life's work purpose. This is my platform to get the relationships, to learn, to do all of the things so I can really be a light for the youth. That's my lifelong goal, is to retire helping these kids. I'm
Amazing.
like, I just, that's all I really care about, honestly.
Oh, I love it. I love your heart. Well, Roxanne, thank you so much for coming on the show and
Yeah.
sharing a little bit of your journey. I think it's so inspiring and educational. Where can people find you or connect with you if they want to participate in your fund or learn about
Yeah.
your upcoming projects?
Hopefully I answered all your questions. Again, I
You
don't
did.
do this often, so I
You
constantly
did great.
ramble.
You crushed it.
But thanks for having me. And the website is hiddenempirefilms.com. I'm on Instagram, Roxanne Avent, Avent, and LinkedIn, same thing, Roxanne Avent. Or you can just send them my phone number and email, and they can reach out to me directly.
Okay,
I'll be
deal.
happy to help.
Awesome. Well, you heard it here. It's such a worthy person to get behind. And thank you again, Roxanne, for coming on.
Thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate you.
Do you need help with the next steps for your financial plan? Think Capita. Capita is a financial network built around you. They have a team of financial advisors, CPAs, estate attorneys, Medicare providers, and Social Security experts to help you accomplish your financial goals. Call to schedule a complimentary consultation at 801-566-5058 or visit their website at www.capitafinancialnetwork.com. You can also check out their financial education podcast, The Financial Call, available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and YouTube.